So hello everyone, welcome to recitation 10. And in today's recitation, we are going to cover or revise basic concepts of JavaScript, covering the topics like arrays, loops, and functions. And in the second part, we are going to start with our next series, which is the intro to spreadsheet and Excel in our CS170 class. So I'm just going to divide this recitation into two sections, and in the first one we are just going to revise some of the topics as I mentioned, and we'll be taking a few of the examples which are given to you guys for your exam 2 preparation material, right? You guys have your exam 2 coming up next week, which is scheduled on November 15th. Here's the information in case you guys want to just see it over here, right? The starting time is 9:20 p.m. It will be till 9:20 on November 16th. So if you just want to find the information regarding your exam 2, just like your exam 1, just go to this files folder. Inside that, there's a folder called exam information. And inside this folder, again, go to this exam 2 information folder. Here, if you just open up this PDF, you'll get all the information regarding the syllabus, the content, the sources, the format, or the structure of the exam. I think it has different kind of sample questions too, right? Yeah, so here it has sample questions as per the topic in different kind of parts. So part 1 is of algorithmic thinking. Part 2 says JavaScript into an event-driven programming. And yeah, so we're going to take a few of the example problem statements from this PDF and try to just practice them. And I would strongly, again, suggest you guys to just open up your editor or js.2 site and just practice those problems with me. And later on in our second half, we are going to jump up to the intro to spreadsheets lecture series, right? So, and before that, I think, yeah, for this week, most probably I'm gonna postpone my lab support and office hours, which are usually on Wednesdays and Thursdays, but I'll make an announcement for this week only. I'm gonna push that a little bit later in this week, most probably on Friday. So sorry for the inconvenience caused, but I just have something urgent lined up on Thursday. So because of that, I will not be able to schedule my office hours or lab support hours before Friday. So again, over here, you just have your schedule for the course, right? So we are in week 12. Let me just zoom this thing a little bit. Okay. So here, as you guys can see, we spent almost 3 to 4 weeks for our JavaScript series. Just look at the overview of our course, how we went, right? So far, we are in week number 10. We just have a few more weeks remaining, like just 2 to 3 weeks, and then we are done. So we started off like by learning the basic overview of the course, right? We then jumped on to the basics of HTML, the intermediate part of HTML. And along with that, we also learned few basic stuff about computer science, algorithms, flowcharts, and all those things, right? Later on, we started learning our journey by making an advancement into the advanced HTML series, wherein we covered concepts like CSS and all the stuff, right? Later on, as you guys can see, from week 6 onwards, we started off with JavaScript, right? Intro to JavaScript, event-driven programming in JavaScript, what are functions, arrays and loops, which we covered in last week, which is the week 9 recitation. And currently we are in week 10, and we are going to start off with intro to spreadsheets. And with this, I'm going to revise and take some of the concepts of functions, arrays, and loops again for you guys to just make it more hands-on, and so that you guys can practice before your exam 2 comes up, right? So that's it. Without wasting time, let's just get started. And first things first, let me just share and open up the folder. Okay. Now the solutions. Awesome. So if you just see this PDF over here, so if I have to just take up the questions from here, let's say, let's just take this question, for example, right? Write a function. I hope this is visible, right? So the question says that, again, before just moving into the problems directly, let us just try to basically brush up the concepts of functions, arrays, and loops, right? Like, for example, in layman terms, if I just have to ask you guys that what are functions in JavaScript and what are its application, or why do we need functions, right? So just try to pause this video and think to just recollect what exactly we did learn in our function series, right? Okay, awesome. So again, if I have to go through the basics, a function is nothing but a set of statements, right? That performs a task or calculates some kind of value by performing some kind of operation. And it's just like a procedure, and we can just use that function as many times as we want. Function can also accept different kind of parameters which we can pass to the function. Okay, and how do, like, this was all about the function creation and function definition, but how do I just invoke the function? Because we know that just creating the function and just providing the function definition is not enough. We gotta call that function, which means we gotta invoke that function. So we simply do that by just calling the function name, and if it's expecting any kind of parameters, then we'll just pass our parameters while calling the function, right? So this was all about functions, where uh, uh, it just makes our life easier, right? We saw different kind of examples. Let's say we have a function which just accepts two numbers and performs the addition of those two numbers. So in this way we can just what we are doing here is we are just creating that function one time, and we can reuse that particular function again and again for multiple a combination of values, right? So this was all about function, and let's just go to arrays, for example. What are arrays? Again, just pause this video, try to think, and it can be like, it's fine, I don't need the proper definition, but you can try to be like, and like, if we just want to speak in more layman terms, so what is an array, or why do we need an array in JavaScript? Okay, so I think some of you might have just recollected or guessed it right, that arrays are just an object in JavaScript which holds, or which has the capacity to hold multiple values of different kind of data types in it, right? So for example, we can just create a variable and just assign it or make it an array, and inside that variable we can store multiple values. Let's say I want to store numbers from 1 to 10 inside an array. I did not have to create 10 separate variables, right, for that. So because of that, arrays are useful, and we can store different kind of values. For example, again, some of you might get confused that exactly, is it necessary that all the values which are stored inside an array like have to be of the same data type? No, right? We can have multiple values of different data types inside our array. So note that thing, okay? And I think, yeah, this is an array elements are iterable. What do I mean by iterable? Like the property of iterable, right? So I can iterate each and every element present inside our array and just pull out or fetch the value one by one. Now, how we can do that? For that, let us jump to loops. What are loops in JavaScript? Anyone? Just pause this video again and just try to think of what we did in our loops recitation lecture, and what is the application of loop. And specifically we studied about for loops, if we just want to speak about loops. Okay, so if I just have to speak the general definition of loops, right? So loops are nothing but they are just used to perform repeated tasks again, which is based on a specific condition. So now you guys can say, okay, function also used to perform a task which is just repeated, or we can use the function as many as times possible. But loops, notice that, like, if you guys remember the syntax of loop, when we just created a loop, for loop specifically, it had different kind of parts, 3 parts, right? The first one was the initialization part. The second one was the conditioning part. I can say as the ending point or the starting point. The first part is also initializing or the starting point of our loop. The second part is the condition or the end condition or the ending point. And the third part was the updation, right? Or you want to increment or decrement, or what's the step size, to be precise, right? We can say in that way also. So loops are generally used if you want to perform repeated tasks based on a specific condition. If I just have to give you a quick example again, if I just ask you that from numbers 1 to 100, just print out the even numbers. So there you gotta repeat certain steps again and again based on a certain condition. You gotta check if the number is odd, you will not take into consideration, and you are gonna print only the numbers which are the even numbers, right? So this is the application of for loops, and this was just the basic revision of arrays, loops, and functions in JavaScript. So now I think we can just directly move into our practice problem, which is just in front of your screen, right? So I would strongly suggest again that please work simultaneously with me so that we can like if you guys are stuck, you guys will be able to know your mistake, right? So let me just quickly go to jas.do application over here. I'm not just opening up my VS Code. Let us just quickly write the solution and practice your problems over here, right? We can just see the output simultaneously, right? So first problem, let me just copy and paste the problem statement for you guys. Okay, so it says that it says write a function which converts Kelvin degrees into Fahrenheit degrees and returns the result. The function should use a single parameter for the Kelvin degrees, and the mathematical formula, which is given as F equal to K into 9 by 5 minus 459.67. So this is just the formula where F is the Fahrenheit temperature value and K is the Kelvin temperature value, right? So we just want to create a function which will accept one single parameter over here. Notice that it's mentioned, and that would be in Kelvin, right? The Kelvin temperature. And we want to just convert that particular temperature to the Fahrenheit temperature, which will be the output of the function which we will get. So just again, pause this video first and just try it on your own. And then once you are done, then just resume the video and check with the solution, with what I am doing over here, right? So like always, if we need to create a function, we'll just use the word function keyword, right? So this is just the basic syntax. Again, guys, like make sure like you are clear with the basics. By basics, I mean you should know how to create the function, right? How to pass the parameters. Make sure all of your brackets and everything is perfect, right? And after that, if you guys are stuck inside any kind of conceptual thing, or maybe in the logic part, then that's fine. But like having your basics clear is essential, right? As you guys are like almost towards the end of this class and you guys have your exam coming up. So I hope I can bare minimum expect this thing from your end. So I use the function keyword. Let's say I just name the function as K2F. You can name anything, but just make it appropriate, the naming convention, right? Let's say I pass the parameter as K temp. Okay, let me just open up the brackets over here, and let's say where result. Okay, cool. Where result, I'm just creating a variable, declaring a variable over here, and let's say I want to perform some kind of operation, which would be this formula over here, right? Let me just copy this thing over here. Instead of K, I'll simply write K temp, because that's the thing I'm going to pass with the help of this parameter, right? So here, what I'm doing is I'm saying that whatever k value the user passes, just take that value, multiply by 9 by 5, and just subtract it by this value 459.67, right? And then lastly, what we want to do is, any guesses? The last essential step, once we are done calculating the result, let's say I'm done with my function. Let's say, for example, over here, what I'm doing is document.write, and inside that I'm just calling my function, because just creating the function is not enough. We gotta call the function in order to evoke the function, right? So I'm writing that ktemp, and let me pass a parameter over here inside ktemp, not ktemp, but k2f, which is the function name, and I gotta pass a parameter. Let's say I'm passing a value 100 Kelvin, for example. Let's just take it, and let me just save my work. Let me just run the code. Awesome. It says uncaught syntax error, invalid or unexpected token on line 12, line number 12. Okay. So I purposely did this thing to just make you guys understand that what's exactly the issue over here. Can anyone guess? Just pause this video, and if you guys are able to identify that, well, it's good from your end. But over here, notice that when we are I did everything over here. We perform the operation, but for me, when I'm calling this function, I have to tell the function to return some kind of value, right? That part is missing over here. So I gotta say return result, because this operation or computation which we are doing and the value which we are storing in the variable called result, we got to return that value, so that while calling the function, it will catch that value which the function is returning, right? So now if I just do this step and I run the code again, let me save, return result. Okay, there might be a simple error in terms of bracket, I believe. Document.write k2f 100. Okay. That's fine. Parameters are optional. I think result, let me just write. That's also fine. It's showing me this answer equal to k temp times 9 by 5 minus 459.67. Awesome. Result is not defined. I want to just return answer. Okay, I mean, I don't know, while copying stuff from here, what was the error? But it's the same thing which is there. So I'm returning the answer over here, and notice that we are getting the output from here. Let's just cross check the value. Is it correct or not? So let's say in Google, I'm just writing Kelvin to Fahrenheit conversion. Okay, let's say I'm writing 100. So notice that the answer which we are getting is minus 279.67. Minus 279.67. Okay, so which means that our function is working fine, and the conversion is correct, right? So what we did over here was we just created a basic simple function, and the name of the function is k_2_f, which is just accepting one parameter called ktemp, and I'm just creating a variable where I'll just perform the operation of the formula for the conversion of Kelvin to Fahrenheit, and then inside that, I'm saying that once I'm just getting the final value, I gotta store it inside a variable which we created over here, and we'll just simply return the variable. That's it. And just over here, I'm just using the document.write method because we want to see the output in the web browser. And while calling the function, I'm just passing a value over here, 100, which will be accepted by this parameter, right? So that's the thing. And I think, yeah, this should be fine. This was just a basic program. Further moving on, let's just take one more program example, right? So over here, let me just okay. Let me just okay. Let me just remove this stuff. That's fine. Write a function that calculates and returns the final price of a product. The function should have two parameters, one for the initial price and another for the tax. Okay, so again, simple basic problem statement. We gotta create a function, and it will accept or have two parameters, right? One as the initial price and another for the tax. Again, the formula is given to us, same stuff. For example, let me just copy the stuff which we did over here. Okay, so this is the problem for the function, right? So let's again understand what's this exactly. Okay, so it says that the function name is final price. It's accepting two parameters called init price or tax. And then inside my function, again, I'm creating a variable called answer. Inside the variable, I'm just performing this computation according to this formula. It says final price equal to, let me just, if you want, I can just write it as final price, right? To make it more sensible or appropriate according to the naming convention. So final price equal to init price multiplied by, in the bracket, 1 plus tax, right? And I'm just simply returning the final price. So while calling the function over here, I'm passing two parameters, 100 as the initial price and let's say 0.07 as the tax amount. And if I just run the code, I'll get the output as 107. So if you guys have worked this same problem in your own system, then make sure you are getting the same output value if you just insert this two parameters specifically, right? So again, this was the basic function. We just saw two different problems, including the concepts of functions, right? JavaScript functions. So now let's just get and try to solve one more program, which will include working of arrays and loops along with the functions, right? So let us take this program, for example, right? 4.3 section and problem number B. So inside this problem, let me just again copy and paste this stuff over here. Okay. The problem says that write a JavaScript function whose name is getHigh, and that it takes one array parameter and returns the largest of the values in the array. Okay, again, just pause this video and try to read the problem statement one more time, right? It says write a JavaScript function getHigh, which is the name of the function that takes only one parameter, and that parameter is of type array, and it simply just returns the largest value present inside the array. For example, where large equal to getHigh, this is just the function calling, and this is the parameter which is passed over here, and would assign the value 10 to the variable large. That's fine. So what we can do is here, for example, let me just create an array. Okay, let me just quickly create an array over here which we can pass, right? So let me just, let's say the name of the array is my array, and I want to just input some of the values over here. So let's say the values would be the hours worked, right? So those would be the integer values. So let's say 23, 12, 35, and usually the hours per week for a full-time job are 40 hours, right? So let's say I'm just considering all the values between 0 to 40. So 23, 12, 35, 27, and let's say 40. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 values present inside our array. Note that, right? So now our intended goal is, like, if I pass this array to a function, the function should return the largest value of this array, where in this case it would be 40, right? right? So again, pause this video, try to just work on this problem statement in your system, and then continue watching the solution, which I'm writing over here. And of course, I'll be explaining each and every line. And I think this is a little bit trickier, like not that difficult, but it would have all of the concepts together of arrays, loops, and function, right? So let's just get started and see what kind of approach we are going to follow to provide the solution for this problem statement, right? So first things first, after that, over here, I'm just creating an array, right? The name of the array is my array. Okay. Then what next? I got to create a function. And note that, guys, that the function name is already given here. Like it says that you got to create a function having a name called get high. Awesome. What kind of parameter I need to pass? Over here, it says hours worked. So I'm going to pass something like hours worked. Okay, right, makes sense. What next? Inside my function, how we will proceed ahead. If I just want to see the code logic. So again, guys, this is the main part over here. What everything else is fine. It's just the basic syntax. But what actually comes inside our function, which is the code logic, that's something very important, right? Which you got to focus on, and that will come with practice. So for example, if I ask you in layman terms that how you are going to calculate the largest number present inside an array, how will you do that? There can be different kind of mechanisms or methods, but one such method which we are going to follow, and you can apply this approach wherein you guys are asked to calculate largest number or the smallest number, right, inside any kind of array or list or anything else. So I think this method is largely used, right? And like for example over here, the method says that we are going to assume that let our first element present inside the array be the largest value. Again, I repeat, we are going to assume here that let my first value, which is present inside the array out of the 5 elements, be the largest value. So in this case, I am assuming that, let me just write comments. My assumption, first value in brackets, let me write 23, is the largest. Okay. But we know that simply, of course, that 23 is not the largest value. The largest one is the 40. But for now, just assume that in any case, like always, just assume the first value to be the largest. This is how we are going to proceed ahead, right? What next? After assuming, we got to check that whether our assumption is true or false. We are actually going to check, right? Because let's say assume that you don't know any other elements present inside this array. You are just all these are hidden, and you are just aware of the first value. Take it into that way. So for example, what next we are going to say that now, like I'm assuming, so I gotta store or put this assumption inside code statements, right? So I'm going to write something like var high. This is the variable which I'm declaring, and say that var high will be having my first value of my array, this array. The name of the array is my array, right? And how do I access the array elements? By simply following this syntax, which says var high equal to my array, and inside the brackets, I can write it as 0. Make sense? Again, if you guys remember that we have something called as indices or index values inside the array, right? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So for that purpose, just give me a moment. Okay. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, so over here, 0 is for 23, 1 is for 12, 2 is for 35, and so on and so forth. So what I'm seeing over here, that let me just store the value, my first value, which has an index location 0, inside the variable high. Okay, awesome. What next? We gotta check our assumption, right? So for that, we will be implementing a if. But before that, I want to iterate inside my array, right? How can I iterate? While discussing about arrays, we discussed that array elements are iterable. So how can we iterate into our array? There's something called as loops. So for that, we are going to use our for loop, right? So this is the basic syntax of for loop. Inside that, we have three parts, right? I'm going to say that where I equals to 1. Again, I'll just explain why I wrote I equal to 1 and not why I equal to 0, right? I less than, I can write something as hours worked dot length. Okay. I plus plus. Inside this, what I'm doing is just first, like, let me just write the code, and like I'll just explain each and every line what is the meaning and why we wrote that, right? So let me just say that if inside my for loop, if hi or the hours worked of I, which is 1, the first element is greater than hi, then we gotta say that replace that value or store that value inside the variable hi. Hi equals to the same stuff over here, and simply after this we are going to return that value, return hi. Just checking the brackets. Let us simply check the function whether it's working properly or not. Get hi. Inside the hi, let me just pass the parameter as my array over here, the same stuff, right? Run code, expecting token, okay. Line number 19. Oh, just a bracket is missing, okay. Run code. Okay, length, hours worked dot length. Get hi, hours worked, variable hi, my array 0, I equal to 1, I less than hours worked dot length, I plus plus. Inside that, if array of I or hours worked of I is greater than hi, then I'm say that hi equal to hours worked of I. And I just close. This is for this else. Okay. Okay, got it. Again, see, just see that all the brackets are placed properly. For example, over here, this bracket is the closing bracket for my function, right? This one is this closing bracket for my for loop, and this one over here, which you see, this one is the closing bracket for my if, right? If I run the code, it is working absolutely fine. We are getting the largest value, which is 40. So let's just see what exactly happening over here and what we are really doing. So like initially, like I mentioned that our assumption is that the first value is the largest one. Okay. Inside our for loop, let's just see how internally this thing is working, right? Over here. Let me just put it over here. Yeah. Iterations for loop iterations. I equals to 1. I equals to 2. I equals to 3. I equals to 4. Okay. Now, inside my for loop over here, first things first, when I'm inside my function, I'm passing this parameter, right? And while calling, I'm passing this parameter, which is our array. And the name of that array is my array. And it will simply pass this array, this parameter again one more quick question or fact that, of course, it's fine if we don't have the parameter names as the same names, right? It can be different for sure. I can write my array over here. I can write any name over here. It did not has to be the same, right? So this is just accepting or catching the parameter which I'm passing by when I'm calling the function. And over here, again, the high variable currently is storing the first value, which is 23, right? And inside my for loop, let's just see the internal working of the for loop specifically. So I'm saying that where I equal to 1. Notice that I'm not saying that where I equal to 0. Why? Because we have already taken into consideration the value 23. We gotta say that, hey, I want to start my for loop from I equal to 1, which is the value 12, because I have already assumed that this value is the largest. Now I want to check for the remaining values of my array. So I say that for start from I equal to 1, which is 12. Okay. And what is the condition? So here the condition says I less than hours worked dot length, simply the length of the array. What is the length of the array? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 elements are present inside the array. So we say that the length of the array is 5. Okay, I less than 5. So for I equal to 1, I less than 5. What is the value of I? 1. Is 1 less than 5? Yes, true. What next? It will go inside this for loop. First, it will initialize the value of I, then it will check the condition, then it will go inside this for loop. Inside the for loop, we have a if condition over here, which says hours worked of I. Again, hours worked of I means hours worked of 1. Makes sense? So we are taking the value which is present inside the index location 1, which is 12. So I'm saying that is 12 greater than high. Now what is exactly present inside the variable high? Currently it's 23, right? Note that we stored the value 23 over here initially. So we are going to check, is 12 greater than 23 actually? Yes or no? False, right? So we say that, okay, don't go inside the if loop. Again, it will not return the value. The function is not ended. It will go to this updater thing, increment operator, right? It says I++. So I++ means now our I value becomes 2 from 1 to 2. So we come here inside our second iteration of the for loop. Same thing we are going to repeat. We say that, again, the condition I less than hours work dot let. So is 2 less than 5 true. Again, go inside the if there's a condition over here. So we say that our next element, which is I of 2, 35, is 35 greater than 23? True, right? 35 is greater than 23. So it will come inside our if block, and we say that, okay, store this value inside the high variable. So now our high variable, again, earlier our high variable was having a value called 23, but now our high variable will be having a value 35 after this second iteration, right? So 35 comes that, and our assumption went wrong, and we are saying that, okay, no worries, let me just put the value 35 inside my high variable. And currently my next assumption, or the most recent updated assumption, is that 35 is the largest value present inside my array. Okay, we still have more iterations to perform, right? So let's just see what happens next. Again, after this stuff, it will go to this updater I++. Again, I value becomes 3 from 2. So same stuff. Is 3 less than 5? Yes, true. I say that, okay, what is the value present at index location 3? 0, 1, 2, 3, 27. We again compare 27 greater than 35, because now currently 35 is stored inside the high variable, right? Is this true or false? False. That's fine. So it will not go inside this if block, and it will simply go to this updater function. Okay, I equal to 4, right? From 3 to 4. Same thing. I is 4 less than 5? True or false? It's true, right? So it will go inside the over here. It will go inside the for loop, and we have our if block again. So hours worked of 4 because we are in our fourth iteration. So what is hours worked of 4? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 40. So we say that is 40 greater than what is the current value which is stored inside the variable high? It's still 35, right? We say that is 40 greater than 35. So the value or the answer is true. 40 is greater than 35. We will go inside this if block because it's satisfying this condition. It's becoming true. And inside that, we are going to update our high variable to this particular value, which is 40, because it satisfied the condition. So now we say that inside my high variable, I want to store the value 40. And this is my most recent assumption again. See, till now, two assumptions went wrong, right? So here, while iterating through all the elements, I'm checking that, okay, I'm just making some kind of assumption at every point. And when that particular assumption is becoming false, I'm again just creating a new assumption. And in this way, at the end, for example, over here, currently the value 40 is stored inside the high variable, right? And we have assumed that now 40 is the highest value of this array. What next? So after this, after performing the 4 iterations over here, when the loop will go to the updater function again, I plus plus. So I value becomes to I equal to 5. What next? It will check the condition over here, right? So the condition says, is 5 less than 5? True or false? False. So it will not go inside this for loop and it will simply end the loop. After that, it will just go to this return statement and will simply return the value which is stored currently inside the variable high, which is 40. So in this way, we get the end result as 40 whenever we call this function. So this was the internal working of how this particular for loop is working and what kind of approach we followed in order to calculate the largest value of the array, right? I hope, I mean, this is clear, like for the better understanding. I wrote it over here so that you can just visualize or what exactly is happening, right? So if you just write anything over here, let's say I instead of 35, I write it as 52, for example, and I run the program again. Okay, let me just comment all this stuff. Okay, 52, right? So this was about the example which we just saw. And let me check what is the time. Okay, cool. We still have time. In the meanwhile, let me just quickly take the attendance. Notice the attendance code for today's recitation, which is recitation number 10 is 138. 138. Okay, I hope you guys got the secret code for this recitation lecture. So let's just quickly end this JS.2 side. Let's just quickly go to our part 2 of this recitation, which comprises of introduction to spreadsheets, right? So if I just, okay, let me just close this thing also over here. Okay, so if I just have to ask you that what is spreadsheet, just the basic layman definition. So we can say that a spreadsheet is a computer program that can capture or display and manipulate the data which is arranged in a format specifically consisting of rows and columns. So over here, this is just a basic how a spreadsheet looks like. So I purposely just created the slide with this background image of an Excel sheet. You have that, like, see, this light green area is basically a spreadsheet which has rows and columns, and all this small rectangular space is called a cell. We are going to learn more about how we can just do a lot of things with our data, which is stored inside the spreadsheet, with the help of tools and technologies which come along this application called Excel, which is powered by Microsoft. So Next, what is Excel? So Excel is again a spreadsheet program from Microsoft, and it's also one of the component by the product of Office group, right? And Excel is just simply used, or it just enables the users to just format, again, organize, format, and calculate the data in a spreadsheet. That's just the purpose of Excel, right? And in that, first things first, if you just open up your Canvas web page, right? And if you go to the file section over here, inside that, like always, just go to the 00 recitation information folder. You'll just find a folder of my name again over here. And in that folder, there is another folder called recitation10. I've just uploaded the sample example1.xlx file for you to just download it in your system and just practice along with me. So again, for our intro to Excel or spreadsheets topic specifically, we are just gonna learn few of the basic stuff, and I think I'll be covering most of the stuff along with our part 2 for intro to spreadsheets in our next recitation. And I'll make sure that all of the things are covered in both of the recitations. So it can be the case that our next recitation, that is the week 11, recitation number 11, might exceed the usual time limit of the lecture, right? It might be around 1.5 hours, something like that. Okay, so yeah. And one more thing, I just want to add that if you want to find the reference content for intro to spreadsheets in your reference textbooks called Fluency, you can find the content on chapter 13, right? So yeah, that's it. So I just let me just quickly open up the example1.xls file. Okay. Okay, cool. Let me just drag it over here. Okay, I hope you guys can see the screen. So this is our basic sample example one file, which I've shared with you. And before that, over here, this is how your, oh, is this thing visible properly? Okay, this is the basic overview, and let me just quickly go through the different kind of things which you are gonna see in your Excel screen if you guys are using for the first time, right? And I assume that maybe some of you guys would be using or are not familiar with Excel, and that's completely fine. For that purpose, we are going to study and learn everything from the basics, right? So first things first, over here, which you guys can see in the green thing, in the bottom part is your status bar, and you can just have the functionality of zooming in and zooming out your content. Over here, this area again is called your spreadsheet working area, wherein you are going to put your data, you are going to see your data, right? And over here, notice that sheet 1. What is this exactly? This means that you are currently on the sheet 1. Yes, you can work on multiple sheets simultaneously in your Excel workbook file. For example, notice that the small little tiny plus sign, right? So with the help of that, you can add different kind of sheets, and you can work on multiple sheets simultaneously. And after that, you can just share this bunch of sheets as one whole workbook together, right? So over here, again, this thing is just a quick access toolbar, which or for example, this arrows which you are seeing over here, those are simply for the undo operation, right? That we can do with the help of Command Z or Control Z keyboard shortcut also. All these things we are going to learn in more detailed way. But again, I believe that we'll see everything practically when we are actually performing or doing stuff in our Excel environment, right? Rather than me just going through all the different kind of elements, because that doesn't make sense and it will not help you guys to just grab a better understanding, right, about the Excel environment. But just the basic stuff is just, if I just have to give you the overview, right? This is the formula bar, wherein you can just type in the formula over here, this thing. In Excel, of course, it just allows us to write different kind of formulas in it, so that it makes our lives easy over here. And again, this year, Excel had one of the major upgrades. Excel, included Python, right? So we can, of course, write our Python code along with Excel, and that combination is way more powerful, right? Because Excel is just, of course, it has been always trending in the world of data, and along with Python, like that's a deadly combination for sure. Of course, you guys can just read more if you are coming from Python background. If you want to just use Excel for your projects, make sure you can just check out different kind of resources and blogs for that. But now let's just again, let's just be inside the scope of our course. What next? Okay, so here again, see this plus sign, I can add a different kind of sheet over here, right? It says sheet 2. I can rename my sheets over here, right? File, I can just save the file over here, right? So over here, what next? What else? These are the couple of options which you can see. For example, this is the new sheet over here, right? I can write any kind of value. I can insert, let's say I can write it my name, or let's say there's a heading of different kind of columns called, let's say, let me just, oh, is it visible? I think it's very, oh, I can zoom it over here. Okay, cool, not bad. If I write, these are the typical values which we usually see inside our columns, right, of any kind of data file. As our serial number, let's say name, and inside name I want to say, let's say first name specifically, last name, course, or the major. Let's say I want your RUID. Let's say I want your email, your address, and stuff like that, right? So this is how you can just come off with the different kind of headings. And here, let's say you can just enter the values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on and so forth. In the name, I can just write it, let's Sam, John, Rose, Sakshi, or let's say Jay, and let's say Aryan, and just last names, and you can just fill in the details. But the purpose or goal, I want to show you a magic over here, like real magic, right? So for example, if there are 100 entries, so does it make sense? I'm of course not gonna just enter the values over here, right? 7, 8, 9, 10. Of course, it will just take my entire day up. Let's say if the case is that I want to input 10,000 entries. So of course, there has to be some kind of way which will just make this thing easy for us, right? So there's something called as, let's say, if I just delete all these elements over here, I've just written 1 and 2, right? And let's say I want numbers from 1 to 10. I can simply select these 2 elements over here. And notice that if you just hover your cursor into this bottom right corner over here, you guys will be able to see a plus sign like this. Just click this and just drag this thing over here. Simple. It will automatically autofill the rest of the values, and it will just simply understand that I just want to perform the same operation which we just did in the first 2 cells over here, right? It will just simply go and put the remaining values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now, let's say if I've just written this 1, and if I do the same thing over here, what will happen? Will I still get the same output from 1 to 10? Let's just see. Oops, I'm just getting all the values which are exactly the same as 1. So again, notice that if you have like only one element, if you just drag this thing out, it will just simply understand that, okay, I just have to autofill all the remaining elements by that particular value. But now let's say if you have this 2, and together if you just drag these things together, it will understand that, okay, I just want to put the values in the increment order, right? Same thing. Let's say if I have a value 3, let's say I have a 5. What are this sequence? It's odd numbers, right? Now let's say if I drag, will it give me the output in the odd number format? Let's just check. Oh yeah, it's showing me the output in the odd numbers, right? Just skipping one of the elements, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, right? So this is the one such example, or the you can see the magic or the property of an Excel, right? We are gonna look at different kind of things for sure, and understand more about each and every feature provided in the Excel environment. There are tons and tons of things. We are going to work on our first problem statement, which is the example one sheet. Again, just a small thing. What would be the extension of an Excel file? For example, when we were working in HTML or JavaScript files, the extension for the HTML file would be .html. For the CSS files, it used to be .css, right? For the JavaScript file, it's always .js. But for Excel, notice that over here, if I click on file and save, or let's say file and save as, this is the extension, right? Excel workbook.xlsx, right? So this is the by default extension of an Excel file. So that's what pretty much about the basic stuff about the Excel environment. I want to, I think all these things. So this was about the autofill feature, which we just looked right now. Okay, I think I'll just stop over here. We are already done with the time, and I wanted to cover some of the other things as part of this recitation lecture, but we'll just try to cover it in our week 11 or recitation number 11, wherein we are going to work on different kind of features, and we are going to look and take this example one file, and we are going to surely perform different kind of operations, right? So I think that's it for now for today's recitation. I hope, please make sure you guys mark your attendance after you are done watching this recitation lecture, and all the very best for your exam 2, which is coming soon. And feel free to reach out to me if you guys have any kind of doubts, questions, or concerns. And one more thing regarding the grading of the assignments, I know, like, I think I'm left to grade three assignments, right? Altogether, all the assignments after your exam 1. I'll try my best to grade them before your exam 2. And again, I'll make an announcement regarding my office hours and lab support hours for this week specifically, which is going to be a little different. And yeah, see you guys next week. Hope you guys enjoy your week, and all the very best again for your exam 2. Thank you.